Travis Myers, reporting with Mary Jane Myers, Grandma Butch, for the Lake Forest Report. Mary Jane has lived in Lake Forest for most of her life. Grandma, how long have you lived in Lake Forest?
Well, I was born in Lake Forest in 1921, and I lived in Lake Forest until I finished high school, and then I went away to college, and then after college I taught. And after World War II, my husband and I moved back to have our family in Lake Forest, and I've lived in this house for 46 years.
Were you born at Lake Forest Hospital?
Yes, I was at the old hospital. The hospital out on Skokie, just off Skokie Highway, is a new hospital, comparatively new, and it was built in 1931, which is new to me, but old to you. And the other hospital was built behind Lake Forest College on a ravine. And my mother was born at the old Lake Forest Hospital in 1896.
Has the hospital changed at all?
Well, when it was moved, of course, the other hospital was sold. I don't know whether it's still up or not, but it just wasn't there anymore. And the new hospital has changed a great deal. Doctors have their offices around the new hospital, and your dad and all of his brothers and sisters were born at the new hospital. But we had the same doctor. I had Dr. Proxmire, who came here after World War I, and I had him as my doctor from grade 3, and he delivered your father and brothers and sisters at the new hospital.
When you were a child, how many grade schools were there?
Well, I'm trying to remember. I hope I remember exactly, but I'm not quite sure. There was Halsey School, which was down in the heart of town, right next to the City Hall. And there was St. Mary's School, and I'm not sure when that was built. And then there was Gorton School on the other side of town where the senior citizen group meets. And my mother went to both those schools. And I was in the first class that had a separate junior high, 7th and 8th grade, on the second floor of Gorton School. So I went part-time to Gorton School, and then it was changed and only went through 6th grades. And then we went to 7th and 8th grade at Gorton School in the upstairs part. And the auditorium was built just before that year on Gorton School.
What has changed since you were a child?
Well, it's a lot bigger. There were maybe 5,000 or 6,000 people, and now what is it up to? Any ideas? The town has built up so the town is west of Green Bay Road as much as it was when I grew up. It was just east of Green Bay Road to the lake. And there were a few houses along Green Bay Road, you know. But the rest was just open prairie and farms.
What do you remember about going to high school?
Oh, I was all excited when I went to Lake Forest High School because I was in the second class to graduate. And before that, my mother was from Lake Forest, my father was from Highland Park, and both of them went to Highland Park High School, which was called Deerfield Shields. And we took the North Shore train. We had a special train to go to Highland Park to go to high school. And then when I became a junior in my third year, why, we're in the second class to graduate from the high school. So we helped establish all of the clubs and the council and all of those things.
What started the tradition of Lake Forest Day?
Dr. Praxmeyer and the Women's Club started the Lake Forest Day, and they had it on the campus of Lake Forest College. And it was to raise money to start a tuberculosis institute because many people died of tuberculosis and they had a vaccine for it. And they wanted to raise money for scholarships for children, and that's how it started. And then Dr. Praxmeyer stayed on and did that for quite a number of years, and then the American Legion took over Lake Forest Day.
When was the first Lake Forest Day?
It was in, I'll have to take a little check here, it was in 1908. That was how many years ago? 88 years ago? Is that right, or 85?
Is there, or what was special about growing up in Lake Forest?
Well, Lake Forest Day was always something very special. And you might be interested to know that your father and his brother were on the prize-winning float when they honored the Dr. Praxmeyer for his 50th year with Lake Forest Day. And going to the schools here was fun. We could walk to Halsey School, we could walk to Gorton, and we could walk to the high school. And so you ran into your friends when you walked back and forth from school and chatted with them. And having parks, we had South Park and West Park. They were small parks, and North Park up by where the high school is. And we used to play, when I was in grade school, we used to have teams. Even the girls had softball teams, and the boys had softball teams, and they played each other in the summertime. We had park teachers.
Is there anything you dislike about Lake Forest?
I hate to see it get too large. I hope they will save some of the open spaces for more park areas, even if they're small parks, neighborhood parks. And I hope they build the houses so that there are neighborhoods around a small park. There's a feeling of friendliness when you walk down the street and know your neighbors.
Why was City Hall a fire, police station, and a city hall?
Well, it was more than that. It was a fire station and a police station, and the library was upstairs, and a part of the library was upstairs. The other part was a meeting room, and that was because the town wasn't very big. It was only maybe 1,000, and they didn't build right away. It took them a few years to build a library. As a matter of fact, the library was built in 1931. That was a lot later.
Is there anything interesting about Lake Forest that we haven't covered yet?
Well, I think the friendliness of the people within the community, and people have supported the building of schools and the building of and keeping up the parks and building the new recreation center, and people seem to like to participate in giving of their time in Lake Forest.
An old recreation center.
Yes, there was a recreation center. The building is still standing, and it was right behind the present Marshall Fields. And up until a few years ago, they used to have dancing parties in it, and before that, they used to have basketball teams and volleyball teams, and that's where they played in the wintertime. And downstairs on the first floor were the offices of the recreation department. And Lake Forest used to have a ball team, a recreation ball team, and my father played on that ball team, and they played Kenosha and Highland Park and all the towns up and down the North Shore. And then little by little, as the town grew, they had more and more teams, and they played in different parts, and now they have so many different activities for young people. Yes, I have a few funny things. You told me that you were going to come, and I have a few questions to ask you that were kind of fun. Do you know how many streets there are in Lake Forest?
I'll say...
Can you think of any streets?
No. I'll
No.
say about 5.
No, right now there are only 2. At one time there was only 1 street, and that was Scott Street. And that's just east of the tracks in the heart of town. And then after, when the high school was built and homes were built up north of the high school, there was another street, and I can't think of the name of it. Do you know the name of the street, anybody? That's up north of the high school. Otherwise, there are avenues and, let's see, roads
Lanes.
and lanes.
Drives.
Yes, that's very good. And the other thing was that, do you know why the roads all went to the lake and curve east of the tracks?
Oh.
Well, they follow the old deer paths, or the paths that animals and people made walking through the forest, because that's where it got its name. The forest was closer to the lake, and so that's when they decided to name it Lake Forest. So from the main part of the old part of town, east, that was all forest, and the roads all followed those paths.
Thank you very much, Grandma.
You're very welcome, Travis.